This episode is brought to you by D-Bud. As a musician and podcaster, protecting my hearing is crucial to what I do. D-Bud are the best earplugs I have ever come across. They are volume adjustable, which is crucial when you're making music, and they're incredibly effective at filtering noise at the right level, giving you the hearing protection you need whilst retaining the clarity of the sound you're exposed to. Honestly, in the past, I've really struggled with earplugs, and D-Bud make a product that is pretty much the first that I can actually tolerate and use when I'm recording podcasts, when I'm making music, even when I need to filter out noise when I'm sleeping. It can be quite noisy in this house during lockdown. So honestly, a huge recommendation for everybody listening to this. Go to earlabs.co and check out D-Bud's volume adjustable earplugs. They're amazing.
Where are you?
I'm in the UK. I'm in Cambridgeshire.
Oh, Cambridge, yes. Played the folk festival there a bunch of times.
All right. Wow. When was the last time you played in Cambridge?
I don't know. Years and years ago. It's not included. I don't play folk festivals, anymore. But that was nice. Barney McGee and Sonny Terry were on the show. I knew them very well.
All right.
In the 80s, maybe early 80s. So only 40 years ago.
Presumably you're in California, right, at the moment?
Yes, I'm in Palm Springs, California. Swinging Palm Springs. It's not doing too much swinging right now.
No, obviously not. How have you been finding, life in the era of coronavirus, as you are normally such a kind of lover of live performance? Has it been difficult for you to adjust to this?
Yes. Well, I have a great girlfriend, and so we're here a lot. We're doing a lot of cooking. Now and then, when the outdoor dining opens, we go out and dine. So we have a wonderful place. The weather is perfect because I'm just really tired of East Coast weather now. I'm working on my trademarks. I've got this YouTube channel, Don McLean YouTube channel, which is with Time Life and Warner Brothers. I put out a new album. I've got a new album written of new songs, and that will come out later in the year, a whole new album, and I'm very happy about the way that's coming together. We're doing tracks on that now. And then I've got a lot of other projects, a documentary movie we've gotten the funding for.
Wow.
Because for years it was dormant. The albums were selling, but I wasn't on the label. They didn't care. Now with Spotify and everybody, counting all this stuff, they just certified the single American Pie triple platinum, and they're going to go back to all the albums in the 70s. So I think I've probably got a lot of gold and platinum records coming to me, and I already have a room full of them right here.
So in terms of, starting your own YouTube channel and teaching people how to play and sing, were you a big user of like YouTube before doing this? As a consumer?
My son came to me, I don't know, 10 years ago and said, "Wow, Dad, you got a lot of things on there about you. I didn't realize this. I didn't realize that," because I didn't tell my children anything about my career. And meanwhile, everything I ever did has been memorialized. It's been a tsunami. It's been adding every year. There's hundreds of YouTube performances and TV specials and weird movies and places in foreign countries where I was. And I would just do this stuff and never think it would be seen again, like we all did. Now it's all come back. If you want to get into Don McLean, I mean, you can spend a month, learning new things every day. You can put your own collection of videos and songs together. You can do whatever you want, and a radio artist, it's amazing. So rather than just sit back and be the old Don McLean, I decided to be the new Don McLean and get involved with all this stuff and embrace it.
Yeah, that's a very good attitude to have, because I guess there's no changing the way that the industry has kind of moved on from records.
Sure.
And it's a great thing to do, to start your own YouTube channel. So how kind of time intensive? How often do you put out videos?
Oh, well, when we were on the road, my girlfriend would, she's a good iPhone, she would film segments of shows, and we were all the time putting stuff up. Now I'll do something funny, little thing for TikTok, or I'll do as I say, a tutorial. Like I'm probably one of the last surviving long neck folk banjo players who really knows how to do that. And in my and so I did two half-hour presentations about that instrument and how you play it that way, rather than Scruggs style, which is how everybody plays it now, which is a bluegrass style banjo, three-fingered picking. Um, I do all the old country styles and different strums, and so I really wanted to get that. I'm not the kind of guy who would want to put a book out, because I don't have the patience,
Really?
and I want to show people how you do it. So I did both the musical things that I did with the guitar and with the banjo were me pointing out how it's done and doing some things so that you get an idea of, just learn a few things and you're off. You can do this. I spent when I was about 15, I got a Pete Seeger's banjo book, how to play the five-string banjo. I locked myself in the room for a weekend, and when I came out, I was playing some banjo. So, and I don't really respond well to reading, instructions on a page. So this is much easier. You just look at it, and all of a sudden you'll tune it and start playing it.
Yeah. Do you use notated music? Do you read when
No,
you're playing now? No.
no,
Did
I,
did
I
did
am
you ever?
no, I don't. I can't. I don't work well that way. I do not read music. I have songs that come in on my radio, and a lot of times I'll wake up in the morning. I'll keep my the phone has been terrific for me because I can record stuff on it, and I can send that recording to my producer. I can do anything I want with, you know, and he can send me versions of the tracks we're working on, and it's just fantastic. And I can find out anything I want to find out. I'm on the damn thing all the time, but I keep it by my bed because usually when I wake up in the morning, I have a song going on in my head, and if I can get to a recording device and get it down, I've got something unique because they come to me just before I wake up. Almost every morning, I
That's
get a
amazing.
song idea. It's weird. It's
Yeah, well, it shows that it's music's such an innate part of who you are, I guess. If
it
it's
does.
coming to you that naturally in the morning.
That's how I do it. I can take anything and create the right melody for it, but not a. How can you describe it? You know the difference between beautiful cheese and Velveeta, which is the fake cheese that people buy. They love that stuff. It's like cheese spread, but it's in a block form.
Like
And then there's
manufactured.
real Swiss cheese or real, sharp cheddar cheese. If you want a melody that's the real thing, it's not a facsimile of music. And a lot of guys are very talented at writing bullshit. It's not the real thing. It's got to come from in your heart, in your soul somewhere. It's got to feel exactly what it, so that when you hear it back, you get the feeling that you had when you wanted to get out. So it encapsulates this specific, inexpressible feeling that you may have, and that's what I do, and that's why I don't write a lot of songs. I want to capture that. I'm not interested in running up statistics. I wrote 5,000 songs. I want whatever I do to be able to do that. When you hear it, it touches you somehow.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't do a
That,
lot of that. You can't do a lot of those.
and do you think that therefore to make things heartfelt, because you're kind of talking about how a lot of music can be quite manufactured. Do you think that there's a limit on the amount of people that can write a song together and it still maintain, it being heartfelt? Because you see a lot of big songs now have like over 10 writers. Or do you think it's still possible to make heartfelt music in a big group, like that?
I don't think people feel a lot anymore. I don't think they want to feel a lot. I think they want to kill feeling. That's why you have Prozac. That's why you have Ritalin. That's why you have these drugs to sort of flatten people out. And I'm not flat. I can be in a highly emotional, agitated state for a very, very long period of time, and it's very painful. But I would no longer go to a doctor uh, than I would um, cut my arm off. I want to be who I am, and I want to feel everything. And I don't care how painful it is, and I don't care how long it lasts. I tough through it, and then eventually I start to feel something in a song. It's really good because I'm feeling deeply, what it is that I want to transmit into that song. But it doesn't come automatically, and it might not. There are years go by when I can't put two words together, and then all
Really?
of a sudden, yeah, oh yeah, and then all of a sudden I'll get into a zone where it's all happening.
And when you're creating now, do you think I'm doing this completely just, to feel something, as a kind of exercise for your own enjoyment and your own
No,
expressiveness? Or do you think,
no, I don't. I don't do things for my own enjoyment.
so you're
I do.
working when you're doing it? You feel like you're working?
I'm making something that's going to last forever, and something I'm proud of. And what happens is when you get a few things going and you're working on an album, I'm specifically always thinking in album terms, never in single songs. The songs start talking back to me. So I start looking at the titles, and I know I'm pleased with all of them, really happy. They're saying to me, this one isn't as good as the rest of us. You can do better than that. You should think some more. There's a gap here. It's not quite right. It's like cooking. It's pretty good, but it doesn't really, it's not taking it, to where it should be as a song. Where it goes as a record is the second thing. You've got to have the right producer and you've got to have the right people, and I have had a long relationship with musicians in Nashville, and I know what they do, and I know who they are, and I know how phenomenal they are. And so, if you listen back to um, the Botanical Gardens album, there's a song called "The Lucky Guy." It's a terrific song, a terrific track. There's another song called "Ain't She a Honey." I don't know where that song came from. I don't know where the lyrics came from. I love that song, but it's almost like I didn't even write it. It just came. It come in on my radio.
And is there a day that goes by where that doesn't happen? And
Oh yeah. Oh, I have a lot of other things going on. I'm very business oriented. Sometimes the other side of my brain takes over, and I'm reading contracts.
yeah,
I do it all. I do everything.
is
That's the
is that
thing.
essential in the music business to avoid kind of being, uh,
Yeah.
exploited or whatever?
Yes. Yeah, but you also have to be careful that you don't ruin your talent by being so worried about mundane things like money. You have to you have to maintain you can't be earthbound. And there's nothing more earthbound than accounting. You know?
Yeah, it's very true.
So you can't be earthbound. But what you have to do is to hold your nose and deal with it and learn how to deal with it and then put it aside and go back to doing the things you do. One of the things I like to do is nothing. I like to vegetate. And now I'm trying to learn how to cook. So I'll go in and it's all excited, I'll make some dish for myself and I'll read the recipe and I'll go get the ingredients and I love it. And well, that it really frees your mind. You're not thinking of anything but doing this and making it. I made a tuna casserole the other day. It was great, really good. So I know how to do that now.
Yeah, just
So,
to
but
sort of take your mind
yeah,
off constantly being in the cycle of
yeah,
either
yeah, yeah.
creating or
You
or
have there's
managing.
there's all these places that can enslave you if
Mm.
you're a professional, commercial, celebrity type artist. Your image can enslave you. The requirement you feel, there's a requirement on you to produce something, when there isn't. Um, and then, all the time you spend promoting yourself and what you do, you could be learning a language, you could be learning other stuff, you could learn how to sail, you could be learning how to skydive, I don't know, whatever. But there's room for it all. You know, you don't just have to be, Mr. Songwriting, famous person, who that's all you do.
Yeah.
It's a danger. It's a funny thing. One of my drummer Jerry Kroon said a smart thing. Guy, when he first came to Nashville, he was doing it all. He wanted to be the greatest drummer ever, and he is one of the greatest drummers. But one guy gave him really good advice. He said, when you come to this town, you may know how to do 10 things, but they're only going to want you to do three things. And after a while, you'll only be able to do three things. So
Mm.
you have to constantly be exercising these areas that other people don't think are important, but they are,
Yeah, they're
you
important to your
know?
own happiness and your own sanity.
And you never know what's going to happen next. You might need that. Like I do, I trademarked five trademarks back in 1986 when you could do this. It cost me a lot of money, and I kept renewing the trademarks and renewing the trademarks. And I said to myself after about 20 years, why did I ever do this? Well, certainly then those American Pie movies came along, and I made a fortune because they couldn't use the words American Pie unless they paid me millions of dollars.
That's yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Well, it was very savvy. Did
But
they
it
ever
was
try and that was always confusing to me with the American Pie movies? Did they ever
yeah,
use the song?
no. I
Did they
got
ask
paid.
to?
No, I would have said no. That I could have controlled. I would have said no. But they merely used the title, and for that they paid me a fortune because I trademarked it. There's a difference between copywriting and trademarking. Trademarking has to do with what you use to on merchandise.
Yeah.
Copywriting a song is intellectual property. Now, I could have made an argument that there was a very strong secondary meaning between Don McLean and American Pie, and that I didn't feel like giving them the right to use it in such a crude way. But that would have been very expensive and probably fruitless. And so I just, okay, you're going to do it. Well, I'm gonna stop you unless you pay me. And they knew that when I had a trademark coupled with the secondary association of my name with those two words, that I had them.
Yeah.
So, um, they
Sounds
flew
like it was the
there.
right way of dealing with it,
Yeah,
for
you're
sure.
not going to stop it. I had a friend who had his song Tequila on a movie called Mutant Turtles, Ninja Mutant
Mutant
Turtles.
Teenage
Yeah.
Mutant Ninja Turtles, or yeah, I
He
can't
says,
remember.
oh, they've got my song on there. I'm going to stop them from doing that. I said, that's the wrong thing to do. The wrong thing to do is let them go ahead and use it without permission, and then you own them
Yeah, yeah,
because it's already in the movie.
yeah.
I
You're
had somebody told me, somebody who told me about Harry Belafonte said, you know, he's used "And I Love You So" in this, and he hasn't gotten permission. You can get a lot of money from him. I said, I wouldn't do that. I like Harry Belafonte. I wouldn't do that to anybody even I didn't like. I would do it to a corporation. That I
yeah,
do.
yeah.
But a human being, a guy like him, no way. I said, let him use it for nothing. I don't care.
Yeah, so it was mainly like also with American Pie that it's like a big, it's a movie studio and it's
Yeah, screw them. And besides, they insulted me to begin with, and I said, okay, I don't like that. I really don't. They just think they can walk all over everybody. And
yeah,
now, what's happening with the pandemic? How many people are going to the theater now to see anything? What happened to the last James Bond movie? Boy, did that get killed. That
Yeah,
last
yeah.
Daniel Craig, who I love those movies. There was such a fever pitch built for that movie coming out in April. Nothing, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the pandemic, really did
Yeah.
destroy
Oh,
the movie business.
so many plans, but not just that. People's jobs, their families, their health. My God, this is it's so far-reaching.
Yeah, yeah. So many industries have been devastated by it. I mean, are you kind of do you have gigs in the diary? Like, are you hopeful for a date, or are you just kind of
I don't
staying
care
sane?
about gigs.
You
I
don't
don't
care about
care
gigs?
about gigs. No, if the word if the gate goes up and the bridge comes down and we're able to go, I'll do gigs. But I don't sit around. I don't count my chickens until they're hatched.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't look at it that way. They're not real until the job is done and the money's in the bank. So it's a sad situation. My people who are working for me are I feel terrible about it, but there'll be more gigs. I'll add years onto my life and go do more gigs when everything's wide open. I'm not worried about gigs. I'm worried about learning things, using this time productively. I want to come out of this a better person than I went into it. I want to know more things. I want to have all sorts of things rolling along that weren't there before. That's exactly what I'm doing.
yeah.
And as far as that goes, who knows when the next one's going to creep out of some damned, um, you know, uh, look, they're making computers that are stronger and stronger and selling them. It's great that Bill Gates and Microsoft and all these wonderful people who are zillionaires are talking about helping people and all, but they're creating a, a, a machine that is so strong that you're going to be able to clone people. You're going to be able to make those viruses yourself,
Mm.
but they're selling you. So the actual product that Apple and Microsoft, whoever makes all these things, it's always more and more strong, to the point where you can do more and more stuff. It's crazy. There's so much out of control.
Yeah,
It is just not in our control. So just with regard to this thing, I want to know everything about this virus, all right? And I want it stopped in every form, every time by this vaccine. Or I'm not going to do it for a while. I want to see what happens. I want
yeah.
to see what the next thing comes along is.
Yeah, because if it's something more deadly, it'd be interesting if hopefully we manage to get some kind of herd immunity, whether it's through the vaccine to the point where we're able to open up the economy again, so that we haven't
Oh,
spent all
Lord.
our money if
Oh,
the
Lord.
next pandemic is worse, if it's
Oh,
like
Lord.
Ebola or something.
Absolutely right. You're saying absolutely the way I think and how I'm thinking. We've spent $6 trillion to try to buy 12 months to get out ahead of this thing, which is three times the size of the debt of the United States, which we were all worried about forever. I mean, the
Mm.
minute we've tripled that, quadrupled that, and we haven't gotten any time. We're not getting out ahead of everything. Why is California locked down and its cases are spiking? Why? They don't know. You have to know before you can solve a problem. It's just basic logic. And I
Yeah,
don't think they know.
yeah.
So,
No one knows, and no one's in a position to sort of say, well, this approach is better or that approach is better, because everything's so random. Like, New York is locked down, but Florida
I
isn't. But Florida has
I
fewer
know.
cases, but Florida had
I
more
know.
cases before, and it's
I
all
know.
just there's no kind of
I
pattern
know.
that's making any sense. But something that you said earlier that was very interesting about the way that things are changing so quick with regards to technology. We had somebody on the show talking about
Yeah.
artificial intelligence and how that was going to
Yes.
render
Nanotechnology.
that there's no point in having musicians anymore, because artificial intelligence will be able to make music better than the Beatles. Do you think that will ever happen?
No, but they'll make music better than half the songs I hear out there. Definitely, definitely, that'll be a step up from what I hear out there. A big step up from WAP. All right, okay. This is a song. WAP means wet ass pussy, and that's what we have on the radio, and that's what's going to win Grammys. that is that's not decadence. I don't know what is. It's horrible.
Yeah, I
Nobody
mean,
wants to say anything.
it
Nobody
was
wants to
a
say anything.
it was sort of described as an anthem of female empowerment and stuff
Oh, come
in
on,
the
man.
when I read
It's
it.
and then they have her interviewing Joe Biden. Okay? So I
I
mean,
watched the interview. It was a bit awkward, I thought.
it's I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say about anything. I'm a man. I'm an unreconstructed 50s boy, and I'm proud of it. And I wish the world well. I go along with whatever it's amusing, I think, but I have my own measurements of things and the way I think about stuff. And number one is you need to have a job. And number one, you need to have a job. You need to have money that means something so you can buy something. That's just bottom line. So now you have money that doesn't mean anything. It's getting there very quickly, zero interest rates,
Yeah, yeah.
and no jobs. So no wonder people are out turning over statues and doing crazy stuff. It's just going to get worse. People need to have some point in life, some purpose in life. So, uh, I, there's so much I could say. I hope we didn't get off on this too far.
No,
But
no. I mean, that's the point of a podcast to
oh,
discuss
great.
interesting
Well,
things for
oh
sure.
well, anything you. Oh, that's great because I would love to say anything. I continue to talk and tell you what I think.
Yeah,
Um,
that's exactly what I want, and that's the beauty of podcasts.
hmm.
Like people turn to podcasts. Like I personally consume not my, I don't listen to my own podcast, but I listen to like Joe Rogan or other podcasts because they're unfiltered. They're not like
Okay.
they're not like legacy
Yeah.
media where it's sort of like a
Yeah. I know. I
cozy kind of
understand.
thing.
But
And
I'm
so you,
unfiltered. I'm unfiltered almost all the time. I don't really put a sock in it too often. I have things I want people to know. Um, for example, we've been um, removing and reducing most of the wonderful farmland in the United States and building houses on those because there are no trees. It's real easy to do, and that then people put in their bathrooms and they befoul it. And on the farmland that's left, they're hyping that with nitrogen in order to produce much more products from that smaller amount of land. The proper way to farm is to have a vast amount of land that is untouched and it has been cultivated and enriched over the years in natural ways. Now you have this nitrogen runoff into the oceans that is reducing the amount of oxygen in there and can't keep fish alive. And you're going to see in the next 5 years, I would say, and you're already seeing it, but I've been predicting this in interviews, just letting people know, you're going to see everything you can imagine that's out in that ocean wash right up on the beach. Whales, sea lions, shrimp, every kind of fish, deader than hell. You're not going to have enough excavators to bury it all, and it's going to happen in Maui, and it's going to happen in Malibu, where all the rich people are, and they think they can get away from this, and everybody's going to be, it's going to be crying. They're going to be crying to see what we have done,
that's
and
horrible.
it's going to happen because it can't support life.
That is
You gotta,
horrible. Do you
you
think do you,
gotta
do you think they're going to take the because there's been a lot of promises like with incoming new administration, there are loads of promises from politicians all over the place. Do you think they're going to be
making more
taking more action against stuff like this and stuff like climate
printing
change?
printing money. That's what they're going to be doing, throwing trillions of dollars and making the dollar worth nothing. And so you can't win, you see, because you throw trillions at something. There's a floating plastic island in the ocean the size of the state of Texas. That's a big state. And that's floating out there in the ocean. All that garbage they put in the ocean, it's finally staying. It's not going away. It's not going anywhere. It's not like wood or metal or something. It's that plastic. And what do we do without plastic? We can't function. Everything we have, this podcast, everything, these earphones I have on, it's all over the place. It's made this virtual life for us, and it's a virtual life that we're going to have to crawl into because of plastic, because we're not going to have the old life left to go back to in a number. And they're already planning on that. Why do you think they're looking for another planet out there, that's sort of like Earth? Because they're going to fuck this one up good, and there's no going back.
Well,
You know.
do you think it's at the point where we can't really do anything about it now?
Yes, I do. I
What,
think the
so you
one
think it's kind of gone, the likes of like Greta Thunberg and stuff, that's all, you know, it's almost like too late. We've done too much damage.
we've lost 60% of all the wildlife in the last 40 years. Um,
God, I didn't know
we
that
in
statistic.
40 years ago, and that's from the Wall Street Journal, because they don't believe in any of this stuff, and that's their
Yeah, they're
story.
climate skeptics. They're a
That's
Murdoch owned
right.
paper.
That's right. And they're telling it like they see it, and it's not pretty. So that's where I get that from. And the other thing is that back 40 years ago, you had China and India, riding cows and bicycles. Now we exported all of our, um, stupidly under Clinton, all our jobs, all the means of production over to China. And China makes everything we have. And the Chinese middle class is growing like crazy, and their pollution is unbelievable. I mean, they have no standards whatsoever. But worse than that, they all want air conditioners and Cadillacs and cars and gas. So you have a whole wonderful country of a billion people, three times the size of the United States in the number of people. They're going to all be doing the polluting, and you've got the Indians not far behind them. Same thing. They weren't doing anything. They were very low impact 40 years ago. Now they're right side by side with America, churning out all this effluent and all this carbon and all the rest of it. But the interesting thing is, to me, that in the time, I don't know if you saw this, in the time that the pandemic has been going on, the ozone hole has closed. It's
I haven't
closed.
seen that at all. I haven't seen
Yeah,
any
it's
reporting on that.
closed because no one's driving their cars as much, and they're not doing any of the other stuff they did. Yeah, that from what I read it in a number of places, that hole has shrunk to almost nothing. No one ever mentions that. If we got on hydrogen and got away from gas and away from electric and had hydrogen cars and used hydrogen, because the only byproduct is water and it's cheap. That's the problem. See, people can't make fortunes. That would save us, put things, stop a lot of it. We'd be where we are for a lot longer. We're not going to, reversing it is not going to happen unless something, I don't know what, but you could stop it with everything going over to hydrogen.
What about Tesla and that stuff as well, like electric cars?
Well, that's a that's got a big battery. I don't know what kind of chemicals. That's a battery the size of a refrigerator that you're riding on. It's the entire bottom of the car. I don't know if I want to have a battery sending all that electricity up into my private parts. Um, you know, I don't like that too much.
Yeah, but
And
maybe they'll make it smaller, because they've just kind of not just started, but they could still advance the technology at quite an accelerated pace, couldn't they?
it could, I guess, but I think hydrogen is the way to go.
Is the way
I
forward.
think it's the only answer. And nobody ever talks about it. They always talk about electric all the time and batteries, and that has to do with acid and all this other stuff that's polluting. And what do you
Yeah.
do with the old batteries that are the size of a car anyway?
Yeah, that's
What
a good
landfill do
question.
you put those things in? Like all that shit in them. Who knows what's in that damn thing? Hydrogen is just water, and probably would help the atmosphere.
Yeah.
There's got to be some way of, and I don't know what it would be, of creating, and I think hydrogen really is the only answer, something where the effluent coming from it actually is a positive thing that actually helps rather than you're always fighting that, with all these emission standards and things which you got to have with gasoline. But I'm just a shooting from the hip. I read a lot. I'm not an expert, but I would say that I was with Seeger and all that back in 68, 9, all through the mid 70s. And I heard all these scientists tell me exactly what would happen now and I didn't think I'd be around 50 years later. I couldn't imagine I'd be talking to you 50 years later. But I see everything they said happen is happening right on time.
What else did they just predict,
Oh,
like the climate
the,
disaster?
the polar ice caps, the ozone layer, um, the death of the species, eventually pandemics, and possibly the end of the human race. Because that's what we're looking at here with this pandemic.
Do you really think it's
If
that bad, the pandemic, or it's
it's
just the
not,
start of something?
yes, that's what I'm saying. If this becomes some sort of a pathway, then we're going to take, if it stopped tomorrow, it would take 10 years to rebuild the economy and the psychology of people and everything else to where we were in February.
Mm.
What happens if something else comes along that's much more contagious and far more deadly?
Yeah.
We're back to square one, a new vaccine. This is us. I believe this is all connected to um, the things that we've done to the insult to the animal kingdom and to the earth that we we can't seem to avoid it because we're really I've always felt even since I was a little guy that people didn't come from the world. They're not like animals. You take a person out of the equation and you have a Garden of Eden that has self selection. Squirrels don't need overcoats. They don't need galoshes. They don't need radios. Birds don't need um, anything. They move as thousands at the same time in one direction. They know because they have very sophisticated homing systems in their makeup. We've got to have some clumsy walkie-talkie, and be in a dumb airplane. That's because we think we're ahead of them, but we're miles behind them. We're eons behind animals, and we don't really belong here. Animals don't have right angles in things, and they
Yeah.
don't. It's just the human being does. So you have to realize that we're on a. That's one of the things about American Pie. I always saw the American Death Trip. See, that's what I was always aware of is the American Death Trip. And look at us now,
It's a
food
it's a
everywhere.
it's a difficult
Just
situation in America right now. Do you think that are you optimistic for the kind of the new administration coming in and stuff?
well, it got to be better than the one that's going out. I'm sure of that. That much I know. Yeah, I know that much. I didn't think there would be a guy that would make George Bush look good. You know, that's an accomplishment. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be an improvement because you're going to have compassionate, intelligent human beings running the government instead of a very sick, narcissistic individual. So, you know, that's an improvement, but I think you're going to have just more and more money printed and trying to make things. I think we're at a point now where people just love getting money in the mail and don't like working. We're training them to be a socialist country. Like so many others, just everything will be solved by the government,
Yeah, it
and it's
seems
not.
it seems like a worrying way for society to move in. But hope, all we can do. I mean,
Yeah,
there's more that some people can do than hope. But for the little man, a lot of what one can do is hope. Don, I'm conscious that we're nearly out of time, so I just wanted to ask on the music front. You mentioned that you had an album recorded in the can, like that you're thinking of
yes.
releasing.
Hmm.
So
It's going to be a very nice record. It's called American Boys, and it's a song I wrote with my guitar player, Vip Vipperman. and we wrote a few other songs, and then I did a bunch of songs by myself, and I'm very happy with it.
And would
It's
do you reckon you'll release it this year?
It'll be released this year, yes.
Well, I'm very much
Let
looking
me
forward to hearing it.
let me ask you a question. Where did you go to school?
I went to Eton.
So, oh yes, of course. You're intelligent. You're sharp. What about your undergraduate when you went to like what we would call high school? I guess. Where did you go?
That's high school. I went to Bristol University, so it was Eton's
Bristol.
high school,
Oh, I see.
and then I went to Bristol University after that, which is kind of it's a good, but not like an amazing. It's not Oxford or Cambridge, that's for sure.
So, did you? Um, is this where you want to be?
I don't
Are
know.
you are you
It's
doing what you want to do?
Oh yeah. Well, it's the doing this podcast is awesome. It's honor of a lifetime, and so far, and it's made me able to converse with people who have achieved a lot, like yourself, and I'm really enjoying it. And for all of the bad things about tech, it makes things like this possible for people like me who are
Oh
not
yeah,
backed
there's
by
a
the big guys.
yes, there's a lot of great things about tech. I told you I'm in love with my phone. I do everything on the phone. I'm losing my eyesight, but my phone is great. But no, I'm not. But now, what did your parents do? Just don't mind me asking a couple questions. I'd like to know.
No, I don't mind. Thank you for asking. Well, actually at my dad's company at the moment.
I
He
see.
he owns a company called Lumi. They make they make lights
I
that
see.
treat
Oh,
SAD,
oh,
seasonal affective disorder. But they're
oh.
famous for an alarm clock called the body
Uh-huh.
clock that wakes you up with a natural sunrise. Um, and I've got a clothing business, and we send out clothes from here. And
And what
my
did you?
mum's an accountant.
She's an accountant.
Mm.
Does she work in your dad's business with him, or?
No, she is only part time now. She just has a couple of clients. Other,
Yeah,
Otherwise, she's just at home.
yeah. You should ask her what she thinks about all this money printing.
I don't think most people that I speak to, because I wasn't too clued up on the economy before this
Yeah.
pandemic, but
Yes.
everybody who I speak to who works in financial services says that to varying degrees says that this is very bad, unprecedented territory, and when a
It
more
really is.
dangerous pandemic comes along,
Yeah.
we'll be out of money to deal with it.
Yes, and we can't lower interest rates to get the economies going because they're already at zero almost. So there are not a
Yeah.
lot of bullets in the gun. Anyway, so
Hopefully things progress in a more positive direction. That's all one can say at this point, because
well,
it really reached what I would consider to be rock bottom, and it keeps on reaching a new rock bottom every month.
that's right. The one thing I'm happy about, and really happy about this, because you know when I quit school and I went back to college, I was a year behind, and this was in New Rochelle, which is a lot like sort of if a town could be Eaton, it would be New Rochelle. They're very um, status conscious and success conscious and so on. It was a suburb of New York. I was
Mm.
sort of a local joke, because I played guitar and sang and thought I was going to be somebody. And who does he think he is? Now he's behind, a year behind, left back, if you will, struggling to get through college. And so the thing about it is that people have to realize that life is long. You got to stay healthy. You got to realize you're going to be around a very, very long time. And you want to learn every day something new, even if you're not going to learn the thing you planned on. Learn a whole bunch of things. I sit around thinking, man, I spent all those years doing concerts when I could have spent a little more time learning how to cook or how to speak a language or how to, and I'm trying to make up for that a little. And that's one thing that's helped me
That's a
about
good
this.
thing to have come out of this.
But
What
I think
language are you learning at the moment, Don?
well, none, but I mean, I'd like to learn a little Mexican or Spanish or something. I love that language. I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah,
Um,
it really
but
is.
I'm really dumb when it comes to language. I love the English language. That's my thing, and I'm always looking up words constantly. I love the derivation of words. I'll say something, and I'll say, what does that actually really mean? I'm going to try to find out. Why do I say that? It's, some sort of an expression that you might say.
Hmm.
So I'll look it up and I'll
Well,
say,
you've used the English language. You've put it to great effect with your writings. So it's
I
obvious
love
that it comes naturally to you.
I love the English language and I love melodies and music, and I'm really happy that I was able to give something to people, especially now, who are home and who are focusing on a lot of stuff. Maybe their former careers would have distracted them from thinking about these things. Now they're home thinking about this stuff all the time, the future, their children, their
Mm.
health, blah blah blah. You get working in your and you don't think about that stuff. Well, now they're focused on it. It has an effect on the mind, and they can go to music and make them and give themselves a distraction, put themselves in a place that is familiar, because we're on new territory now. You go back and you listen to American Pie, and it's the way it always was, and it's
Yeah,
there for you. It gives you comfort. Or any of the songs that I've written that you might like, or albums that I made. It's the way it is. It's right there. It's always going to be the same, and that's important. So I'm very happy that I did this with my life.
yeah. I mean, you've given so much to people, Don. I know you've got another interview now, and I was under strict instructions not to keep it too long. So thanks very much
Okay.
for taking the time to come on the podcast. It was awesome, and thanks to Scott as well for arranging it. And yeah, really appreciate it. And
Well,
stay well
yes.
and safe and all the rest of it.
Well,
Thanks very much again.
you're a fine young gentleman. I enjoyed talking with you very much.
If you're enjoying the Greatest Music of All Time podcast, you can keep up to date with all of our latest episodes for free by subscribing. If you're watching on YouTube, the subscribe button is located at the top of the Tom Cridland YouTube page. It's also at the bottom right of any video that you watch on YouTube. If you're listening on an audio platform, such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can subscribe at the top of the page.